The Sony Walkman, invented in 1979, was a portable music player that really took the world by storm. Before iPhones and AirPods, the only way to jam out to the latest Queen single on the go was to own a Walkman. The only problem was the price. It cost $150. In today's money, that would be about $540. But fortunately, musician Bobby McFerrin had a solution to this problem, a way to play music on the go without a Walkman. This new innovation was completely free, fully portable, and available to anyone. It was so effective, in fact, that it's still used today. And it goes like this. Beatboxing. To some, it's just a fun party trick, but to many, beatboxing is a unique art form. What began as hip-hop's little brother in the 80s can now be seen in a cappella bands, Broadway, and even speech therapy. So, to explore what makes these mouth sounds so special, let's first drum up the origins of beatboxing, then modulate to how it really works, before finally synthesizing why beatboxing matters today. Our story starts with a little device called the Roland TR-808, also known as the beatbox. This drum machine became essential to the Harlem hip-hop scene because of its ability to synthesize drum sounds. Unlike other machines at the time, the 808 was what the Smithsonian Magazine called in 2018 a living and breathing studio unto itself. The ability to create unique beats on the fly was momentous, but at $1,000 new, most up-and-coming rappers just couldn't afford it. That's when a rapper named Dougie Fresh had an ingenious idea. He made the 808 himself, using himself. By imitating simple kick and snare sounds, Fresh was able to create beats with nothing but his mouth, becoming the first human beatbox. In an interview published by Mega 100 in 2019, Fresh said, "I can play anything I want to play," and that's the gift. Fresh's newfound gift spread, with beatboxing soon being termed the fifth element of hip-hop. Its influence even bled over into other genres, notably Bobby McFerrin's famous single, "Don't Worry, Be Happy." That song is created entirely from sounds from Bobby McFerrin's own body. To this day, McFerrin remains a massive influence to modern beatboxers, because, come on, who can't stand his groovy beats? Even as beatboxing fell out of the hip-hop mainstream in the 90s, the impact it had and the community it created would stay for years to come. And as the community developed, the techniques behind beatboxing developed as well, becoming more sophisticated and unique. As beatboxing evolved in the turn of the 21st century, the techniques used became more and more sophisticated. One of the biggest innovations actually came from rural Mongolia. Two-point throat singing is a Mongolian musical tradition that involves humming a bass pitch first, then a deeper, more resonant sound at the exact same time. A 2020 MRI study revealed that this is possible because throat singers can constrict 2 points of their vocal cords simultaneously. And this isn't witchcraft either. You start by breathing out a long sigh. After that, you pinpoint that weird rumbly part that happens in the back of your throat. And that's throat singing. Techniques like throat singing, click rolls, and lip rolls were soon adopted by modern beatboxers. And this pushed the genre into new horizons, where it could sound almost indistinguishable from normal electronic production. A study done by the Smithsonian Magazine in 2019 found that beatboxers can produce sounds never before reported in the human language. Another, done just a year before by the University of College London, found that beatboxers use control centers in the brain that are completely separate from speech. These studies show that beatboxing has come a long way from simple boots and cats, and many people have picked up on beatboxing's unique qualities, leading to its modern prevalence and applications. Though it began in New York, beatboxing has spread into truly a global phenomenon, with impacts both inside and out of the music industry. Like anything that's hip with the kids today, beatboxing exploded in popularity on the internet. Because all you need is your mouth, it's the perfect thing to learn online. That's actually where I learned to beatbox. Most beatboxers today learn to beatbox by listening to the radio or watching YouTube tutorials. So no longer bound by location, beatboxing spread like wildfire, becoming a global community. According to SwissBeatbox.com, the 2018 World Beatboxing Championships hosted 170 beatboxers from over 46 countries, spanning from Morocco to Malaysia. Events like these and many others help unite people who would have never met otherwise. And even outside of the music industry, beatboxing has shown to have profound applications in speech therapy. In New York, James Kim founded the Bringing Education and Art Together, or Beat Foundation. This organization uses beatboxing as a form of speech therapy for developmentally challenged kids. According to the BBC, their B-Rockers program at schools such as the Lavelle School for the Blind have helped kids cultivate speech abilities while also learning a new way to make music. This organization is still based in New York, beatboxing's origin city, and while it stays true to its roots there, beatboxing's widespread impact cannot be denied. Today, we recorded the history of beatboxing, then looped around to its science, before finally amplifying why beatboxing matters today. In order to beatbox, you still don't need any machinery or even any musical training at all. This availability allows it to be something that really anyone can enjoy. So, whether it's for fun or with a goal, alone or with someone else, if you want to try out beatboxing, try it out. Become your own Walkman and see where it can take you.
One thing I really hate about Girl Scouts are those uniforms. They bring out my worst features: fat arms and short legs. But the only reason I joined Scouts in the first place was because of the merit badges. I wanted my sash to be so heavy with badges that it would sag off my shoulder when I walked. There wouldn't be any doubt about how outstanding I was. Sidley Walker, Superior Girl Scout. Popularity. It's a struggle most kids face during their childhood. Sidley strives to work her way up the social ladder without losing herself in the process in Little Altars Everywhere by Rebecca Wells. I was making real progress with my badges too, and then our troop leader up and quit. But, wouldn't you know it, out of the wild blue, Mama decides to take things over and lead our troop. I could not believe my ears. The first official act of Mama's reign is to completely scrap merit badges, because Mama says they make us look like military midgets. All of my popular girlfriends look at me like, "Oh, we never knew you came from a nut house." Our annual scout campout always comes up after Easter, and I just dread it. But you have to do these things, whether you want to or not. Otherwise, any chance you have of popularity will go straight down the drain. And you will never get it back. Now, you have to understand the social structure of Troop 55. There are 1, the popular girls, Melaine, Sissy, maybe Mimi, and me. Well, on a good day. 2, the almost popular girls. They try real hard, but they never quite make it. 3, the unpopular girls. At least they love each other. And 4, Edith Spivey. Edith Spivey is in a class all by herself. She has this kind of crow face with pimples around her big old honker nose and hair so oily Melaine says you could wax the floor with her head. And, just to top things off, old Edith wears cheap pointy eyeglasses and crinkled up shoes. She looks like an orphan. Now, a true Catholic would try to be kind to Edith, but I just can't. It's too dangerous. You could get lumped in with her, and then maybe even become her. So, we head out to Camp Mary Alice. When we get to camp, we're supposed to go to sleep, but the popular girls start a pillow fight. The almost popular girls are playing Go Fish, and the unpopular girls are reading books. Edith just sits on her bed with her hands in her lap and stares at me. Why is she looking at me? I'm not the ringleader over here in the popular group. I'm barely hanging on. Edith, what do you want? It's time to go to sleep now. It's way past our curfew. You guys are breaking the Girl Scout of America rules. Well, that just cracks us all up. And Melaine says, hey, Edith, why don't you go back on your bed and pick your zits? Edith looks at me like I'm responsible for the whole world. Then she turns, stomps back to her bed, and keeps staring at me. We start singing, 99 Bottles of Beer on the Wall, and here comes Edith again. Silly, I'm giving you one last chance. If you guys don't go to sleep right now, I'm going to tell your mother. God, why can't you just leave me alone? The popular girls are watching me, waiting to see what I'll do. I know they'll banish me forever if I'm kind to Edith. I know how close I am to being kicked off the popular bunk for life. Hey, Edith, why don't you go back on your bed and pick your boogers for midnight snack like you always do at home? Well, that comment really sends my friends, and I'm a big hit. But then I see Edith's face. It's like something has fallen on it. Somehow she looks so familiar that I can feel her body inside my own. And I start to feel sort of sick. Edith walks over to Mama, looks up at her and says, Mrs. Walker, their 9 o'clock curfew is a National Girl Scout rule. It's almost 12 o'clock. You should make them go to sleep. The minute Mama opens her mouth, I realize she's had at least 4 drinks. Honestly, Edith, if you continue acting this way, you'll be unpopular for the rest of your life. Edith doesn't make a peep the rest of the weekend. She just sits by the window and stares out into the woods, like something real interesting might happen out there. Sometime during the summer, I have this dream about Edith Spivey and me. We're on the swing that hangs the pecan tree in our backyard. And while we're swinging, it's like Edith's body is in my body. Her head leans forward out of my head and her legs kick out of mine. And we're swinging in this just right rhythm. We're swinging high, flying way up into the sky. And when I look down, I see all the ordinary stuff. Our brick house, the front porch, the tool shed, lit up from the inside so that their everyday selves have a holy spark in them. You know, if only people could see those sparks, they'd go and kneel in front of them and pray. Somehow, the whole world looks like little altars everywhere. And every time either we fly up into the air and then dive down to earth. It's like we're bowing our heads at those altars. And we're praying and playing all at the same time. In my dream, we're swinging at the center of the most popular spot in the world.
You wouldn't expect the radio to work afterwards, but it does. I mean, the car is eviscerated. The impact of a 4-ton pickup truck going 60 miles an hour plowing straight into the passenger side, I mean, it tore off the doors, sent the passenger seat through the driver's side window. There was so much noise. Grinding, popping, exploding, and then clapping of metal cutting through the soft trees. Then it went quiet. Except for Beethoven's Cello Sonata No. 3 still playing on the car radio somehow. I can still hear Beethoven, so at first I figured, everything is fine, and I'm standing here in a ditch on the side of the road. I climbed the embankment to get a better look at the car, but it isn't even a car anymore. It's a metal skeleton, without seats, without passengers. There are many different kinds of bravery. There's the bravery of putting others before oneself. A quote from Peter Pan. A young girl must make her own kind of bravery when she's faced with a difficult decision after a catastrophe in If I Stay by Gail Foreman. I see Dad first. As I walk closer to him, the ground grows slick and there's chunks of what looks like gray cauliflower on the ground, so I turn away and I see Mom next. There's barely any blood on her, but her lips are already blue. I need to find Benji. Where is he? I run back to the ditch where I came from, and I see an arm sticking up. Benji, I'm right here, and I walk closer, and suddenly I see a metallic glint of a silver bracelet with cellos and guitar charms, and that's my bracelet. I was wearing it this morning, and I looked down, and I'm still wearing it now. Now I know that's not Benji lying there. Everyone thinks it was because of the snow, and in a way, I suppose that's true. I woke up that morning to a thin blanket of snow covering my front lawn, and it wasn't even an inch, but in this part of Oregon, a light dusting brings everything to a close, and it was enough snow to cancel school. Maybe we can take advantage of this unexpected boon and go somewhere, Dad says. We can take a drive or go visit Gran and Gramps, and obviously I was in. And so I called to Benji and told him to get dressed because we were going on an adventure. Am I dead? I actually have to ask myself this. Am I dead? Because at first it seemed obvious that I was, that the whole standing here watching part was temporary. An intermission before the whole life flashing before me business that would take me to wherever I'm going next, but the paramedics are here, and someone's put a sheet over Dad, and a fireman is zipping Mom up in a bag. He says that she was hit first and killed instantly, explaining the lack of blood. Immediate cardiac arrest, he says. When the heart can't pump enough blood, the body doesn't really bleed. You know, it seeps. I can't think about that. About Mom seeping, so instead I focus on the fact that she was hit first, that she was the one to buffer us from the blow. You know, it wasn't her choice, obviously, but it was her way. She took me to a casino once. We were on vacation, and Mom wanted to do a bit of gambling, and Dad wanted to stay back at the hotel, so I decided to come with her. Once we got to the casino, we sat down at the blackjacks table, and the dealer looked at her, and then he looked at me. And then she glared at him, hard enough to cut any rock, followed by this smile more brilliant than any gem. And you know what? The dealer didn't say a thing. We were there for what felt like 15 minutes, but in reality it had been over hours. Did you know the ICU is kind of like that too? I couldn't really tell how long I'd been there. And at one point, Graham and Gramps had shown up. I could hear them. They were asking each other these questions like, what if they want her to join them? What if she wants to join them? Do you think she decides? And I thought to myself, am I supposed to decide this? If I am, how can I possibly stay, you know, without Mom and Dad, without Benji? Benji. I picture his hair. He had these tight blonde curls that I loved to nuzzle my face in, and I'd done since he was this teeny tiny baby, and at some point I expected him to be like, no, stop that, you're embarrassing me, or something like that, but he never did. And now he's never going to. Benji's never gonna graduate from t-ball to baseball. He's never gonna go to high school, or get a girlfriend, or go to prom, or fall in love, or get married, or father his own curly-haired children. You know, I'm only 10 years older than him, but it's like, I've already lived so much more life. If one of us should have stayed, if one of us should have been left behind to get the chance for more life, it should have been him. It's unfair. Because now Benji is gone. And Mom and Dad are gone. In the ICU, I start to really think about what life would be like if I stay. If I stay, I'm visiting this cemetery, and it's 3 graves under a tree. If I stay, I'm hearing the word orphan, and then realizing that they're talking about me. If I stay, I'm tickling my son so hard he keels over, and suddenly the flashes of my life as it might be are coming so fast that I can no longer keep up with them. But they keep coming, and suddenly everything is colliding until I can't be like this 1 second longer, and there's this blinding flash, a pain that rips through my entire body, this silent scream from me, and then I decide.
It's 2015 and those finger stashes are still a thing. The internet is polarized over the colors of a dress. It's blue and black, by the way. You go on Tumblr or your mom's Facebook to look up those adorable pictures of pets caught in the act. You know, the ones where owners take pictures of their pets holding these signs that say, "I eat socks," or "I'm afraid of my own farts," or my personal favorite, "I ate a bottle of glitter, but now my poops sparkle." Simpler times. Well, we call this internet trend pet shaming. It was only a much milder version of the kind of shaming we see today. For instance, we always knew that the owners would forgive their pets. Unfortunately, the reality of shame culture today isn't quite so simple. In our October 2020 History Today article, Susanna Lipscomb describes society to be in the midst of an epidemic of shame. Yes, we need to hold people accountable for their actions, but is shaming the right way to do it? And so today, we'll first explore the evolutionary and historical development of shame culture before delving into some of the modern ways we see shaming today. And finally, we'll discuss some solutions, hopefully finding a cure for this epidemic. Shaming has been so deeply ingrained in human society. In fact, you can trace its roots back to the first hunter-scavengers living in tribes and bands. Back then, you had to rely on each other to survive. So any individuals who acted rashly or endangered the survival of the group would be left behind. And according to a joint research study conducted by UC Santa Barbara and the University of Montreal, these early hominids would then begin to carefully consider how others would devalue them if they took a given action. This was the earliest form of shaming in human society, an evolutionary adaptation to protect our social relationships. Now let's go to the 13th century, the era of angry mobs and public hangings, and the 16th century, when French clergymen would police the streets for acts of immorality, then force offenders to issue a public apology in their undergarments. As time went on, shame became more and more prevalent in society. And according to Beth Daly's October 2019 The Conversation article, in 1970, German Chancellor Willy Brandt knelt down in front of the monument of ghetto heroes in Warsaw to issue a public apology for his country's misdoings in World War II. This was a good type of shame. It showed us how shame can shape our moral compasses. And throughout history, shame was used to hold individuals, institutions, and governments accountable for their actions. Unfortunately, we aren't quite seeing that same trend of shaming today. Beth Daly goes on to explain how shaming can be toxic when it's used to discipline, oppress, or exclude others. For shaming to actually work, the individuals need to genuinely feel bad about their actions, something we don't always seem to see today. A modern example of shaming can be seen in cancel culture, where a group of people attacks an individual's reputation for a disagreeable opinion or action. In a select few cases, cancel culture gives us ordinary citizens the power to hold those with more influence accountable in society. For instance, the cancellation of Harvey Weinstein and his subsequent removal from power was a good thing. But in a July 2020 Atlantic article, How Capitalism Drives Cancel Culture, Helen Lewis explains how this might create a sugar rush of tokenistic cancellations, which is bad, because real institutional change is hard. When we convince a company to throw someone overboard for PR points, the pitchforks go down, but the corporate culture remains the same. The survivors will sigh in relief, but the institution goes on. And in the words of Joseph Burgo, a published clinical psychologist, shaming others makes us think that we're full of virtue and they're beneath contempt. When we shame others, we often evade and redirect blame, making it extremely difficult to actually resolve issues. That's the danger of cancel culture. It makes it a competition of who's the most woke while sweeping the problematic institutions under the rug and making others more resistant to change. Shame culture is a band-aid solution. It seems like it's working, but in reality, we're just fixing a broken pipe in a burning building. Fortunately, in her History Today article, Susanna Lipscomb goes on to explain how the antidote to our epidemic of shame is empathy. Smith College professor and proud Black feminist Loretta Ross explains how we should call out culture. In a July 2020 New York Times article, Professor Ross proposes that we instead call in people,
which is the same as calling out, but done with privacy and respect. It involves conversation, compassion, and context. So the next time you think about making that Instagram post, publicly calling someone out, consider making it a private conversation first. Slide into their DMs and have an open discussion, not a debate. Explain how you think they can be better. So what if this doesn't work? Well, Professor Ross also explains how we can't be responsible for someone else's inability to change. But calling in someone also means that we'll always keep the seat out for them, just in case they come back. This ties directly with another potential change in mindset, knowing the difference between shame and guilt. In an article from the week, Our Political Obsession with Shame, Bonnie Christian explains how guilt is about what we did. Shame is about who we are. But because shame is so closely linked with our identity, it's almost impossible to gain redemption from it. On the other hand, guilt doesn't automatically forgive the guilty, but it offers that chance to be better. And realizing on your own that you made a mistake can lead to positive change in a way that simply being told you're a bad person cannot. Forgiveness is a powerful thing. And so today, we first explore the evolutionary and historical development of shame culture before delving into some of the modern ways we see shaming today, like cancel culture. And finally, we found our antidote with empathy and call-in culture. It's so easy to point our fingers at someone, and our modern digital age makes it even easier. But that means it's even more important to realize that in the end, we're all human. Yeah, celebrities too. We all make mistakes. We all screw up. But we can all also learn to be better. And so I'm not saying that like our pets, Fluffy or Fuzzy or Princess, that we should all forgive and forget. Rather, I believe everyone deserves the chance to be forgiven. After all, we aren't perfect either.
I've been doing martial arts for about half my life. Needless to say, there were many challenges that came along with it. I still remember one crystal clear experience where I was testing for my 3rd degree black belt. But I didn't pass on my first try. I passed on my second. I failed, and I felt so discouraged. I was having these racing thoughts. I was wondering, am I even cut out to do karate? But then I came to a realization. I realized that, well, I just need to be more committed to the sport. And because of that idea, I went to class every day for the next 4 months. And eventually, I got my 3rd degree black belt. And that feeling felt so good. And that brings us to our quote today. Heroes are made in the hour of defeat. Success is therefore, well, described as a series of glorious defeats. A quote by Mahatma Gandhi. And even though I am not a superhero, Gandhi's trying to say that we just need to get up when we get defeated, and that's how we're going to be successful. And if we continue to get up after we've been knocked down, we can become more resilient, we can become more wise, and finally, we can inspire others. Now, if we get knocked down, but we get back up right after, we can learn a valuable lesson of resilience. And this can be shown through Freddie Mercury. Freddie Mercury was the lead singer of the rock and roll band Queen. Queen was popular from the 1970s to the 1980s, and one of their greatest performances was when they performed at the massive concert Live Aid. Live Aid is a concert where many bands would perform just to raise as much money as possible for Africa. However, before this entire performance at Live Aid even began, Freddie was diagnosed with AIDS. And that meant that Freddie couldn't reach those high notes as he could before in the songs. However, instead of just completely not performing at all, Freddie became persistent and he became resilient. And eventually, he gave one of the best performances of all time. And that's not even an opinion. The band Queen made the most amount of money that day at Live Aid. And this shows us that we can become successful if we're resilient, just like Freddie Mercury. Now, another person who was resilient and who got up during a difficult time and was successful was George Bailey in the movie It's a Wonderful Life. It's a Wonderful Life focuses on the main character George Bailey, who is a selfless man who's done basically his entire life was devoted to helping other people. However, this routine started to become a drag, and as a result, he started to have darker thoughts. He wants to commit suicide. Mere inches from jumping off the bridge, his guardian angel comes down from the heavens to show George what life would be like if he never existed at all. The angel shows George how many people he's impacted, and at the end of the movie, George learns a very valuable lesson. That he matters. And this is a sense of self-fulfillment. And we can learn from George that even though life just seems to be beating down on us, if we learn from our past mistakes, we can also become more successful, and heck, we can even find some self-fulfillment in ourselves. Now, a final person who did not let defeat define them is Johnny Lawrence in the hit Netflix show Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai takes place after the hit movie The Karate Kid. And instead of focusing on the protagonist, Daniel LaRusso, we focus on the antagonist, Johnny Lawrence. Now, this series takes 30 years later in the future where we just focus on Johnny not amounting to anything in his life. He's an alcoholic, and he just doesn't have a job. And what's special is that he still knows and has a passion for karate. And one night when he's going out for dinner, he sees a kid that's getting picked on by these bullies. And to stand up for this kid, he starts fighting these bullies. Little does he know, this kid, whose name is Miguel, lives right next to him. And Miguel continues to pressure Johnny until Johnny finally teaches Miguel how to fight. And he inspires Miguel to continue to learn how to fight and how to learn more about karate. And eventually Miguel stands up for himself. And other people see that Miguel knows how to stand up for himself. And Johnny starts to teach those kids too. And those kids were all inspired by Johnny Lawrence. We can learn that if we inspire others, we can also become more successful, or successful in general. Now, finally, what does a rock and roll star, a fictional character from a movie, and Johnny Lawrence all have in common is that they all were defeated at one point. But instead of letting that defeated attitude define them, they all kind of just came back up, and they're all resilient. And they all were successful because they didn't let that defeat define them. As for me, I'm glad that defeat did not define me, or else I wouldn't have amounted to one of the greatest accomplishments of my entire life.
Shh. I didn't even say anything.
Shut up!
You're the one making noise? Well, is Dad still here?
He left.
Then what am I being quiet for?
I'm listening for Mom. Shut up!
Well, is she awake?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out.
She's asleep.
She's probably asleep.
She's definitely asleep. I can hear her snoring.
You would say that.
What does that even mean?
You're taking Dad's side.
How is that taking Dad's side? I just said she snores.
It just is. I can see how things are going. They're gonna split us up. Boys on one side, girls on the other.
No, we're both going with Mom.
I don't know.
Do you see us arriving with Dad?
Good point. Brother-sister relationships are complicated.
I mean, not really.
Especially when there's trouble brewing at home among the whole family.
Just you.
Oh my god, will you just let me finish?
Sorry. See what I mean?
Siblings Chad and Rachel attempt to right their wrongs to restore their family's bond in I'm pretty sure this is your fault.
By Don Zalibis.
This is all your fault, by the way.
What is?
The divorce, idiot! It's your fault they're getting divorced.
No, it's not.
Think about it. Remember that time you made them that anniversary dinner? Your beef stroganoff? You remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
Your beef stroganoff? Dad had to have his stomach pumped.
Well, that just brought them closer together. The pain.
He was never the same after that.
Oh, come on.
He wasn't. He was a broken shell of a man after your dinner. He used to like run places, but after that night, he was a broken man.
He was already in a downward spiral way before my dinner.
Well, you pushed him over the edge.
No, I didn't. It was your Valentine's Day card that poisoned their love.
Your one stuck about poison, you stroganoff murderer.
Dear Mom, happy Valentine's Day. P.S. If I don't get what I want for my birthday, I can make your life very, very, very difficult.
So,
That's a threat. You're threatening Mom.
I don't see what this has to do with them splitting up.
Because it destroyed Mom's fantasy that she had nice kids.
If anything, that would push Mom and Dad closer together because they would need to provide a united front against us.
But it didn't.
And I'm pretty sure Mom was well aware of the fact that they weren't nice kids. Let's see. After babysitting events numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Well, none of those were my fault.
All of those were your fault.
It's not my fault. Dad hires dangerous criminals as babysitters.
They weren't dangerous criminals. They were normal high school kids.
Well, how am I supposed to know that when they wait till I'm unconscious?
How are Mom and Dad supposed to go on dates when you dial 911 every time we get a babysitter?
It was an emergency.
No, it wasn't. They couldn't enjoy a single nice dinner because the police were always storming our house and hauling away babysitters.
Yeah, well, I stand by those actions. Yeah, well, what about your presentation to Mom?
That wasn't a presentation. That was a persuasive paper for school, moron. Maybe you'd actually know that if you did any work for your classes, which probably would split Mom and Dad up. They're ashamed of your failures and they're trying to escape. You'll probably be sent to an orphanage for underachievers.
There is no orphanage for underachievers.
I'm pretty sure there is one. When one kid fails so much his parents pretend they're not related, how are Mom and Dad supposed to live out their dreams for us if you fail so much?
You're the one who did the presentation.
Oh my god, it was a persuasive paper.
On how Mom could do better than Dad?
Well, I had to be persuasive.
Oh, I guess you were successful then, weren't you?
How would you know? You've never been successful at anything your whole life.
Well, you were successful at breaking up our parents.
I was just making a case for an upgrade at father. That's all.
Then how was this not your fault then?
Yeah? Well, what about the time you sent Dad on a blind date with the choir teacher?
She's nice.
So's Mom.
What about the time you call Mom pretend to be Dad's other wife?
What about the time you frame Mom for white-collar crimes?
I hope you're happy.
I hope you're happy.
Well, I'm not.
Neither am I. You know, I'm beginning to think that this might be both our faults.
Yeah, a little bit.
We probably shouldn't have done all those things.
Yeah. I shouldn't have called the police all those times.
And I shouldn't have pretended that Dad had 4 different wives in 4 different countries.
And I shouldn't have suggested that Mom had changed her identity as a wanted fugitive in Guatemala.
Yeah, that probably put a strain on their marriage.
Yeah, It couldn't have been easy to raise us.
It's not their fault we turned out so lousy.
Well, how about we get them back together?
Yeah.
Here, I will admit I planted the evidence.
And I'll tell Mom that I made up the other wives.
Scratch that. How about we write a song?
What?
Like a Love is Good song, one that would inspire them to get back together. I know. How about we change the lyrics to the Pina Colada song?
What song?
The Pina Colada song. You idiot. The Pina Colada song.
I don't know any Pina Colada song.
If you like pina coladas, get caught in the rain. Caught in the rain.
It sounds horrible.
Not when the guy sings it.
But why would that matter?
Because it's about two people who go on a blind date, and when they get to the blind date, it turns out they're going on a blind date with each other. Surprise!
Well, now you've ruined the song for me.
Fine, we'll do something else.
I could make them a don't get divorced card with no threats in it at all.
And I'll cook dinner.
No.
You're right.
Or we could promise to be well-behaved kids.
That's it.
Mom, Dad, from now on, we'll stop trying to ruin your marriage.
And I'll try in school.
We will be so happy if you guys stay together.
Yeah.
We can do it. High five. I love you, Chad.
I love you too, Rachel.
Oh, also, we'll say, and if you guys get divorced,
We'll be so much worse.
This just in. Violent protests continue throughout Russian cities. Democrats deliver impeachment case against Donald Trump, and some good news for restaurant goers in Chicago. All this and more coming up. Hello, my name is Rebecca Thomas here at WGBK News Flash, bringing you the latest in news, sports, and weather. This broadcast has been brought to you by the Home Depot, built from all the right materials. Moving into Moscow, allies of jailed Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny called for new protests next weekend to demand his release. This follows a wave of demonstrations that turned out tens of thousands across the country in a defiant challenge to President Putin. Rallies took place in over 100 cities in the largest outpouring of anger in years. A record number of over 3,000 people were detained, with more than 1,400 in Moscow alone. Some who were detained were released without charges, but many others faced court hearings. Now in the Netherlands, protesters confronted police in Dutch cities Monday night, throwing fireworks and defying the country's 9 p.m. to 4:30 a.m. coronavirus curfew. This marked the second night of unrest that initially grew out of protests against the country's tough lockdown, but degenerated into vandalism by crowds whipped up by messages swirling all over social media. Police used water cannons and tear gas in an attempt to disperse a crowd of rioters who were found looting shops and setting fire to a number of streets. Now, for national news, House Democrats delivered the impeachment case against Donald Trump to the Senate for the start of his historic trial, with Republican senators refusing to convict him over the deadly siege at the U.S. Capitol. Prosecutors carried the impeachment charge of incitement of insurrection, marching along the same halls rioters ransacked just weeks ago. Republicans are questioning whether Trump's repeated demands to overturn Joe Biden's election really amounted to incitement. Security remains very tight at the Capitol at this time. Also within Washington, with a change of administrations, it looks like Harriet Tubman is once again headed to front the $20 bill. The Obama administration had selected for Tubman to replace Andrew Jackson, but the following Trump administration did not move forward with that decision. Biden Press Secretary Jen Psaki said Monday that the Treasury Department is taking steps to resume efforts to put the 19th century abolitionist leader on the $20 bill. Tubman is famous for her efforts spiriting slaves to freedom on the Underground Railroad. Looking into local news, Chicago and suburban Cook County are officially open for indoor dining for the first time since late October under pandemic restrictions. The two regions have moved to Tier 1, so restaurants will reopen for indoor service, but at 25% capacity. Under Governor J.B. Pritzker's rules, tables will be limited to no more than 4 to 6 people. Diners must wear a face covering except when being seated or eating, and they must put it back on when interacting with servers. The restrictions on indoor dining are rules that have been widely flouted, though Chicago has issued some citations. Shifting over to Chicago Teachers Union announced Sunday its members overwhelmingly chose to conduct only remote work beginning Monday. Teachers and school staff were supposed to report to school then to prepare for February 1st, when 70,000 students are to return for their first in-person classes since their schools closed in March. In the first wave, preschool and special education teachers and over 6,000 students without an exemption were ordered to report back for January 11th classes. Only 19% of students eligible for in-person instruction showed up. Well, that's your daily dose of news, sports and weather coming up, but first, a word from our sponsor. The Home Depot is proud to be the world's largest home improvement retailer, with more than 35,000 products sold in stores and 1 million more online. We aspire to excel in service to our customers and communities. That's what leadership means to us. Home Depot, built from all the right materials. And now for your weekend sports update. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, the two best players in the LA Clippers, were ruled out for Tuesday's game in Atlanta due to the league's health and safety protocols. As has been the case with most other games that have been postponed, contact tracing was cited as the cause. And get excited, college basketball fans, because you're about to get a rundown on all your favorite teams. Ohio State and Wisconsin battled it out, Ohio State winning by 12 points with a score of 74-62. And it was an intensely close game between Georgia Tech and Virginia, with Virginia falling short by just 2 points, with a score of 64-62. Taking a look at this weekend's forecast, it's quite chilly out there today. Looks like we will be having some snow, so make sure you grab those coats and hats. Temps are ranging in the 20s with a high near 28 and a low of 21. And as for tomorrow, it's still cold with a low around 15. Well, that's all the news we have for you now. Thank you so much for tuning in. This broadcast has been brought to you by The Home Depot. My name is Rebecca Thomas, and from all of us here at WGBK Newsflash, have a wonderful day.
More tea?
Yes, please. A toast to being best friends forever.
What are you doing?
What do you mean?
Why do you have a piece of bread?
It's not bread, it's toast. Get it?
Well, what does a piece of bread have to do with it?
So we toast to being best friends forever.
Oh my gosh, Madison, you're so dumb. That's how you toast.
It's not?
No! Here. I toast to being best friends forever. Clink!
This is the story of two best friends navigating through the goods and hard times of growing up.
This is the story of Madison and Linnell's infinite bond that gets stretched at the seams by a devastating event. In Making Toast by Elizabeth Ann McDJ. Taylor, get out of here! This is my bathroom! Go to the one downstairs! Ugh. What?
What?
I think your cheeks are pink enough.
They are.
What is up with you?
Well, you know, you've done it. Had your day of destiny. Your first kiss. And I'm just really nervous for mine.
It's no big deal.
To you, maybe, but look at me. I'm a duck. Or a Kardashian. I really can't tell.
Come on. We've been through this. You just kind of... And you... Well, it just kind of happens, you know? And you'll love it, okay?
Okay, toast.
To what? To your day of destiny?
Or the day of the duck.
Come on, you don't look like a duck. You're beautiful.
You know who else is really beautiful? Taylor.
Taylor? Ew! Ugh.
Linnell, what happened?
Nothing.
Hey, it's me. I know when you've been crying, and I definitely know when you're trying to hide it.
I got dumped
No.
a month before prom.
Tony is such an idiot.
No.
John.
No.
Rick?
No, Nathan!
I'm sorry, honest. But you do see a lot of different guys, Linnell.
Just because you've been dating my brother since the 8th grade doesn't mean you get to criticize me.
I'm not criticizing you. And you're right. Taylor is the only guy I've ever been with because he treats me perfect.
Try being his sister. It's not so perfect then.
Hey, try having no siblings. That's not perfect either. Maybe that's why I'm so glued to you guys. You just have this perfect family.
My life is not perfect. Remember, I just got dumped a month before prom. What do I do now?
We toast. We don't toast to boys because they'll come and go, but you and I, we're forever. Here's the college acceptance letters.
Hallelujah.
Here's to my career as a writer and to your...
Major in biomedical engineering. Oh, and my date to the dance. Thanks, my brother. My new man, Riley. He is so deep. What are you doing?
Linnell, look!
Taylor finally did it? He proposed?
Yes, a toast?
A toast to your life with my brother as my sister. Well, I was tired and I didn't want to walk anymore. I just want to turn around and head for the car. So I sat down, said I'd had enough, and I kind of blew it.
Blew what?
His ultimate plan to
Tell me.
He knelt down, he opened his
Oh
backpack.
my god. Oh my god, no way.
It's true.
No way.
Will you be my maid of honor?
Of course. A toast?
A toast. Maddie, what happened?
Linnell, it's Taylor. He was on his way home from work and a truck hit him. I saw the car. It's completely totaled. I don't even know how they got him out of there. Linnell, they've been in that room for so long and they won't let me see him. Oh my gosh, why won't they let me see him? What if he's
Madison,
dead?
listen to me. Taylor is going to be fine. Listen, everything is going to be fine. I mean, you have to be my wedding just 9 days from now.
That's what you're thinking about? Whether or not you're going to have a maid of honor at your wedding, let alone enough ushers?
No, I was just trying to make you laugh. That's what you always do for me when I'm hysterical.
Why should I be laughing? What about this is so funny to you?
No, that's not what I mean.
Then what do you mean? Oh my gosh, Linnell, admit it, spit it out. You're just thinking about yourself like you always do. That man in there's my husband.
And my brother. Of course, I care about what's happening inside that room. And you. I am so sorry. This has all just been a huge misunderstanding. I'm just trying to be there for you.
Be there for me? Well, being there for me just isn't enough this time.
You don't mean that.
I do.
I'm right here for you.
I said I don't want you here.
Hello? Thank you all so much for being here today. On my wedding day, I stand here before my friends, my family. And although I'm not great with words, I propose a toast to two amazing people in my life who couldn't be here today. To my brother Taylor, who's recovering, thank God, recovering slowly but surely. I love you, Taylor. We all do. And to my best friend, Madison, who's been with me through everything.
That's not how you toast.
It's not?
No, it's not.
I'm so glad you're here. I'm sorry for...
Sorry, it was all my fault. Hello. I know it's not normal for a bride to be giving her own toast on her wedding day, but Linnell and I have never been good at being normal, so I propose a toast to the most caring and kindest person I've ever met, and to the most beautiful bride I've ever seen. Congratulations to you both. I love you. Cheers.
Cheers.
I am a storyteller, and I'm also a qualitative researcher. I collect stories, that's what I do, and perhaps stories are just data with a soul. So I'm a researcher storyteller, and I want to share with you today a piece of my research that fundamentally expanded my perception and really actually changed the way that I live, love, and work. Vulnerability is defined as the quality or state of being exposed to the possibility of harm, either physically or emotionally. In this 2015 TED Talk, researcher and storyteller Brené Brown explores the complexity of human connection and how we can learn to embrace the power of vulnerability by Brené Brown. When I was a doctoral student, I had a research professor who said to us, here's the thing, if you can't measure it, it doesn't exist. And I was like, really? And he was like, absolutely. And so you have to understand that I have a bachelor's and a master's in social work. And during this time, I was working on my PhD in social work. So my entire academic career was surrounded by people who believed in the life's messy. Love it. And I was more of the life's messy, clean it up, organize it, put it in a bento box, done. And so I decided that this was the career for me because I was interested in a lot of messy topics and I wanted to be able to make them not messy. I wanted to understand them. So where I began was with connection. Because by the time you're a social worker, you realize that, connection is why we're here. It's what brings purpose and meaning to our lives. You know that situation where you get an evaluation from your boss and she tells you 37 things you do absolutely amazing. But then she hands you that one opportunity for growth, and all you can think about is that one opportunity for growth, right? Well, that's kind of how my research went. When I asked people about love, they told me about heartbreak. When I asked people about belonging, they told me their most excruciating experiences of being excluded. And when I asked people about connection, the stories they told me were of disconnection. This idea that in order for a connection to happen, we have to let ourselves be seen. And I mean really seen. So I conducted thousands of interviews. I did focus groups. I wrote a book. I published a theory. But something was not okay. And what it was that if I roughly took the people I interviewed and I divided them into those who have a strong sense of worthiness and those who struggle with it, there was only one difference between the two. The difference was that those who have a strong sense of love and belonging believed they are worthy of love and belonging. That's it. These are wholehearted people living from this deep sense of worthiness. Courage is defined as the ability to tell the story of who you are with your whole heart. And so these people very simply had the courage to be imperfect. They were willing to let go of who they thought they were in order to be who they really actually were, which you absolutely have to do in order for connection. The second thing they had in common was this. They fully embraced vulnerability. They believed that what made them vulnerable made them beautiful. They talked about the importance of saying, I love you first, of being able to invest in a relationship that may or may not work out, of doing something where there are no guarantees. They believed that this was fundamental. The definition of research is to control and predict, to study phenomena for the explicit reason of controlling and predicting. And so my research had turned out the outcome that the way to live was with vulnerability. and to stop controlling and predicting. And so this led to a little breakdown. I mean, I call it a breakdown, but my therapist calls it a spiritual awakening. Why do we struggle with vulnerability so much? You know, it was funny. I sent something out on Twitter and Facebook, and I asked, how would you define vulnerability? What makes you feel vulnerable? And within an hour and a half, I had about 150 responses. Some of the answers included asking my husband for help because I was sick, getting laid off of work, asking someone out, getting rejected. I mean, this is the world we live in. We live in a vulnerable world, and one of the ways that we deal with vulnerability is that we numb vulnerability. And I think there's huge evidence, and this might not be the only evidence, the reason this evidence exists, but I think it's a huge cause, is that we are the most in debt, medicated, addicted, and obese adult cohort in US history. We cannot selectively numb. We can't say, here's the bad stuff. Here's grief, fear, shame, disappointment, anger. I don't want to feel these anymore. I'm going to have a couple of beers and a banana muffin. We can't do that. Because when we numb those, we numb our other effects, our emotions. When you numb those, you numb joy and gratitude and happiness, and then you feel miserable. And you're searching for purpose and meaning in your life, and then you feel vulnerable again. And it's just this constant dangerous cycle that keeps on continuing. So this is what I've learned. To let ourselves be seen. And I mean really seen. Vulnerably seen, deeply seen. And to love with our whole hearts even though there's no guarantee. To practice gratitude in those moments of terror where we're thinking, can I love you this much? Can I believe in this passionately? Can I be this fierce about this? To simply stop. And instead of catastrophizing what might go wrong, what could happen, to just say to ourselves, I'm just so grateful. Because to feel this vulnerable means I'm alive. When we work from a place that says, I'm enough, we stop screaming and we start listening, and we're kinder and gentler to the people around us, and we're kinder and gentler to ourselves.
Deborah, fetch me a cup of coffee, will ya? With sugar. A lot of sugar. And enough caffeine to wake up the dead. Women. Where am I? Oh, hello there. So, you're in hell. What? Deborah, what is this? Oh, you won't find her down here. Wait, what's going on? Who even are you? Oh, Satan, the devil, the prince of darkness, Lucifer, it's whatever floats your boat, really. Now, you are, Greg from Salt Lake City, Utah, am I correct? Yes. Wait a second, why am I even in hell? Greg, what did you do for a living? Well, I'm an advertising executive. Oh, what did you sell, Greg? Cigarettes? Greg, cigarettes kill people. Yeah, they're not great for you, but, Greg, your job was to convince people to buy something that slowly kills them? How are you surprised that you ended up down here exactly? Well, I was good to my wife and, don't kid yourself. You were a greedy little megalomaniac, but don't worry. That's exactly why I need you. See, hell is a bit of a problem right now. What are you talking about? I'll let my henchman Dreisenweim fill you in on the details. In the last couple of millennia, hell's been seeing a 34% decline in visitors. The people in the world today are almost 45% nicer than they were just a mere 500 years ago. Not only that, but anti-propaganda is at an all-time high. We're the bad guys in approximately half of all horror movies. It's quite a shame, isn't it? But, Greg, if you can sell people cigarettes, then surely you can sell them eternal damnation, can't you? So, you want me to make you a commercial? Yes, exactly. Let the whole world know how, down the underworld is. That was not a good pun. Yeah, sorry about that. We'll talk more tomorrow. Alright, let's take this from the top. Action! Come to the place where burning magma at your feet is the norm. You don't swim, you don't golf, and both your body and soul will be completely obliterated for the rest of time. Your trip begins today at purehell.org. Hello, what is this? Oh, we got Tim Allen to do the commercial for us. It's working really well. But I wanted to narrate the commercial. Yeah, I hate to break it to you, Lucifer, but, you aren't exactly very popular amongst the living people. Well, that's just because Mr. G up there keeps running attack ads on me. Methinks the lady doth protest too much. Tell me then, Lucia, why should people come down here? Oh, well, we have, lazy lava rivers, a killer chocolate devil's food cake, a hot yoga, and, oh my blazing suns, we have this fantastic pancake house just down the block. Do you have, deviled eggs? Oh, because I'm the devil? Oh, that's real funny, Greg. I'm laughing so hard. I'm not here for your puns today, Greg. Here's the thing, though, Lucia. People don't really give a damn about your lazy river, chocolate yoga, whatever. It isn't catchy. It won't convince anyone to come down here. But if you say that you have the best deviled eggs in the entire afterlife, that's catchy. And that'll get people straight down here. But that's not true. Well, duh. It's a commercial. Why would it be true? Hey, Beelzebups, what's going on, my man Satan? Who's your new friend over here? Adam Sandler? I thought you were still alive. Yeah, my body's still over on Earth, but, I sold my soul to Mr. Red Guy over here back when we were making Jack and Jill. Now, Satan, can you come talk to me in private for a sec? Yo, man, you doing okay, bro? No, I'm not, Adam Sandler. You know, I pour my heart and my soul into hell, and, you know, everyone's just scared to come down here. You know, it hurts a little, man. Ah, Satan, my man, you made a mistake there. You care too much. See, you're not here to tell people about how much you've poured your heart into hell. You're just here to brainwash the mindless, dim-witted cattle that we call the general human population to do what you want them to do. I mean, I'm sure Greg only has your best interest in mind because, to be real with you, people don't really care about your pancakes or whatever. Wait, that actually gives me an idea. Adam Sandler, you're a genius. Wow, that's the first time anyone's ever said that to me. Thank you. Hello, Greg. I just wanted to apologize about earlier and just let you know it's nothing personal. It was personal for me. I actually find you, incredibly annoying. Okay, 1, ouch, and 2, I know you got this Tim Allen guy here, and he owes me big, by the way, but I think I have a new idea for the commercial. Can you read this? Good God. Oh, actually, we don't say that around here, so if you could just, oh, yeah, sorry, I get it. Oh, hell yes. You know what? This is actually pretty good. Let's roll it from the top. Action! Are you sad? Do you hate yourself? Do you want to go to heaven when you die? No, you don't. Because here are some things that you should know about heaven. 1, it's kind of boring. 2, the angels? Kind of creepy. You should Google it. And 3, Jesus has gone on record saying that he did not like the movie Baby Driver. What? Remember that movie Baby Driver that came out a couple years ago? That movie was awesome. Why doesn't Jesus like it? Because heaven is lame. Excuse me, but, where should I go when I die then? Well, if you want to never be cold, never deal with repercussions, and talk to George Carlin, wow, then you should come down to hell. Hell is hella awesome. We even have the best deviled eggs in the entire afterlife. Alright, everybody, that's a wrap. You know what, Satan? That was actually pretty alright. Hello. Satan, I'm back. Just want to let you know I'm throwing a party over at my house. It's going to be huge. I was going to just tweet about it. That's not happening. Come over. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be the best party ever. Me and the rest of my pals at DC would love to see you there, old friend. Wow, that actually sounds pretty fun. I say we go, Greg, my pal. Yes, let's. I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
On President Biden's first day in office, he signed 17 executive orders, most of which focused on reversing acts put in place by the Trump administration. These executive orders, including reversing the ban on U.S. entry from majority Muslim countries, denying the Keystone Pipeline XL permit, as well as rejoining the Paris Agreement. Speaking of the Paris Agreement, that brings us to today's question. How will the U.S. re-entry into international organizations and agreement affect the perception by global powers of the U.S.? Well, it depends on the power and the agreement. I'll be talking about three main powers today: France, the United Nations, and Israel. Each will react differently, but let's talk about France first. When one thinks about France, one thinks Paris. So let's talk about the Paris Agreement, which was created in 2015 as a way to reduce and mitigate the effects of climate change. The US was a member until former President Donald Trump made the decision in June 2017 to pull us out. It wasn't until November 4th, 2020, though, that the US officially left, making us the first nation to do so, according to a November 4th, 2020 article from the BBC News. In a 2017 speech found on BBC News, the French President Emmanuel Macron called it an awful mistake for the US to leave. He then took a jab at former President Donald Trump, saying that the Paris Agreement will still make the world great again, regardless of the US leaving, taking a joke at former President Donald Trump's campaign slogan of "Making America Great Again." In 2019, he later called it deplorable in a conference at Beijing with Xi Jinping, where they were negotiating how to help and mitigate climate change. But he said that the choice of one or another is not enough to change the course of the world, according to a November 6, 2019 article from Newsweek. However, things have begun to look up and take a turn for the better as President Biden promised to rejoin the Paris Agreement, signing an executive order on day one. A tweet from Macron on January 20th, 2021 said, "I welcome the return of the US to the Paris Agreement. We will be stronger together to face the challenges that await our generation." Other European leaders have also come out in support of the joining, including Prime Minister Boris Johnson. The Trump administration has had a rocky relationship with the UN, to say the least. The US ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, criticized the UN of having anti-Israel bias, according to a February 1st, 2019 article from CNN. The US made a decision to leave the Council on June 19th, 2019, following the UN High Commissioner Zeid Ra'ad Al Hussein criticizing the US border policy of separating children, calling it unconscionable, according to a June 19th, 2019 NPR story. Ra'ad later called the decision to leave disappointing but not surprising. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said he would have much preferred the US stayed in the Council. The US also left the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, again accusing it of anti-Israel bias, almost owing UNESCO around $600 million in unpaid fees. Irina Bokova, the director of UNESCO, expressed regret and said that the UNESCO was so relevant to the actions of the United States government that it is almost unbelievable that they would be willing to leave, she said in 2017. Luckily, things begin to look up as President Biden has pledged to rejoin the United Nations Council of Human Rights, although the US is not eligible to do that until later this year, according to a January 21st, 2021 article from the Council on Foreign Relations. The conflict between Israel and Palestine is perhaps one of the most complex and certainly the most contentious one in the world. In recent years, however, the United States government and America in general has has taken a clear side and shown support for Israel, particularly under the Trump administration. As I mentioned before, the US left UNESCO citing anti-Israel bias, claiming the example of how UNESCO called a site called Hebron, a site in the Israeli-occupied West Bank, a Palestinian cultural heritage site in danger. In addition, the US has also withheld funds from UNESCO since 2011, ever since Palestine was becoming a full-fledged member. The United States and Israel were two of the 14 members that voted to prevent Palestine from becoming a full-fledged member. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel called the US move brave, courageous, and ethical, criticizing UNESCO and pledging to leave as well, according to a October 12, 2017 article from the New York Times. Israel has previously been criticized by UNESCO for mishandling heritage sites in Jerusalem. Netanyahu has said on Election Day that he hoped President Trump's policies will continue for years to come, according to a November 3, 2020 article from MarketWatch.com. Trump has also had overwhelming support from not only the Israeli government, but also support from Israeli citizens, with settlers in the West Bank going to Hebron, a sacred site, to pray on election night for the victory of Donald Trump. However, Biden's plans to rejoin the United Nations Human Rights Council would likely put a stick in the United States' relations with Israel and not be perceived well. Biden has not announced any plans to rejoin the United Nations Education, Scientific, and Cultural Organization yet, but if he continues along the course of action, it's safe to assume he will. Especially as he continues to roll back Trump's policies, it is likely that Israel and the United States relations will take a negative turn. So, like rejoining the Paris Agreement, the Biden administration has already begun to reverse so many of the actions created by the Trump administration. And as we have seen, countries around the world will react in different ways, some for better, some for worse. We've talked about how three global powers would react today. We've talked about France, we've talked about the United Nations, and we've talked about Israel, and each of the policies that would pertain to them specifically. So, as the Biden administration continues to forge a new path on a new presidency and re-roll policies put in place by the Trump administration, it's clear that some countries will react for better and some will react for worse.
TikTok fans, I have something to admit. I've been lying. I'm not as cool or quirky as you guys may think. I'm actually a local. Now you must be wondering, what makes me so bland, so void of personality? You probably found my account because I use #AltTikTok all the time. With all the vintage outfits I show off with the color customizer filter, you might be thinking, I'm not like other girls. But unfortunately, it's all a facade. So, are you ready for it? I like Taylor Swift. That's right, I listen to more than just obscure artists no one's heard of before. So, I suppose I'm not as cool to you guys now, and you must be thinking I'm pretty basic. And I don't mean something with a pH above 7. Rather, I mean the definition from cyberdefinitions.com. Someone is basic when they're interested in mainstream, popular, and trending items. But why do we hate popular things so much? Being basic isn't bad, and we should learn to embrace our mainstream interests because, quite frankly, there's a reason these things are popular. That's why, viewers of my TikTok live stream, we need to stop hating on popular things. To analyze why we need to end this toxic practice, we first need to identify the causes of our judgmental behavior, then see the impact we have on ourselves and those we shame, and finally, learn ways we can embrace our mainstream interests that better ourselves and the world. As I was scrolling through my TikTok For You page one day, I saw a TikTok dance. Just as I was about to bash the creators for making such a basic video, I noticed something about the girls who posted it. They were having fun. then I started to wonder why I wanted to hate on them in the first place. Because when we get down to it, we don't hate basic things because of their qualities. We hate them because they're basic. According to the article criticizing popular things, Why Is It So Popular?, published in The Guardian by neuroscientist Dean Burnett, we hate popular things because we want to show that we are better than people who like popular things. By bashing them, we are attempting to assert our dominance over those who enjoy elements of mainstream culture. We are also striving, whether knowingly or unknowingly, to boost our self-esteem and sense of self-worth. I think I'll stick to defining my self-worth by BuzzFeed quizzes. Superiority isn't the only reason we hate popular things. The article, Why We Love to Hate Popular Things, published in headstuff.org, explores another reason. Sometimes we don't even hate them. We're just given a voice for hating them. It only takes a minute to make and upload a TikTok or Instagram post, and posts vocalizing controversial opinions tend to get a lot of views. And let's be real, a tiny part of us all want to move out to LA and make YouTube videos for a living, so we want to post things that will get a lot of hits, even if it comes at the expense of someone else's feelings. I have another secret for you guys. I am obsessed with squeegees. And I think that's a healthy obsession, because who wouldn't be obsessed with the way squeegees so satisfyingly clean counters and windows? But do you want to know it's not a healthy obsession? Our obsession with hating mainstream culture, because it's leading us down a slippery slope. From what we wear to what music we listen to, we're in constant competition with whomever to prove that we're more special. For example, take Obscurify.com. According to the tab, the website uses your Spotify account and compares what you listen to with the rest of Spotify users. Then it generates a percentage score for how obscure you are. Seriously? We're getting math involved now? By quantifying our uniqueness, we have gone too far in our pursuit to be different. I've used the site a few times, and let's just say once I started listening to Taylor Swift, my score went way down. But hey, at least it's not my physics test. Okay, so what if I got a 37% on both? That's like almost passing, isn't it? Anyhow, our obsession with comparing music tastes can lead to us making other people feel bad about theirs. Similar uniqueness comparisons are especially rampant on social media. On TikTok, those who consider themselves to be alts or elites make fun of those who are considered basic. A New York Times expose found a common theme on TikTok after interviewing many teen TikTokers. Acting in an unpopular manner makes you superior. This idea has had a negative impact on people's self-esteem and has led many to delete the app entirely due to the toxic environment it has become. I think we should all just head back to Instagram and strike a pose. I think I'll caption mine, Live, Laugh, Love. #poser. My favorite club in school is the I Love Grey's Anatomy Club. Okay, technically it's the Future Medical Professionals Club, but let's be real, we're all there to be the next McDreamy. Recently, I've seen Grey's Anatomy getting some hate on TikTok, but I think the haters are more concerned with the show's popularity than its plot. For those of us who have seen the show, we can enjoy funny TikToks and Insta memes about some of the outrageous cases and storylines on the show. Part of the reason we Grey's fans love these posts so much is because we feel connected as a group. Mental health specialist Martha Roberts shares that feeling part of a group where you have shared values and ideals can help you feel less depressed and increase happiness levels. By joking about the atrocity of the musical episode, or Meredith having not one, not two, but 3 secret half-sisters, we're connecting as a group. By focusing on this popular show, we can find humor and happiness, and this happiness can extend into other parts of our lives. Outside of our screens, we can foster a positive social identity and engender a sense of belonging by bonding over something basic at school or work. We can also use our basic interest to get involved. Many popular celebrities are also activists. The New York Times article, When Did We Start to Take Famous People Seriously?, explores how celebrities can help get news coverage for issues they are vocal and passionate about. Fans of celebrities typically trust them, and this trust can turn into activism for many different issues, especially ones that are typically underrepresented by the mainstream media. For example, Serena Williams has drawn attention to the Black maternal mortality crisis by sharing her story of life-threatening postpartum conditions. This increase in media coverage can push for the creation of new medical developments to better support Black mothers. By listening to popular celebrities and the issues they care about, we can become better informed about issues plaguing our society and what we can do to help and prevent them. Well, TikTok fans, thank you so much for tuning into my live stream today. I hope some of you devout alt TikTokers will take some time to enjoy something basic, because being basic is a powerful way to connect with people and make change in the world. And who knows, you might meet some cool basic people who like it too. With that being said, I'm going to go listen to T Swift's second surprise drop album of 2020. Peace out.
Witches, let us gather, howl at the moon to our mother of all things. Run, barefoot over graves, arched backs, and palms outstretched with great pride, and manicured claw. Carve the word witch into our bare chest. I have gone out, a possessed witch, haunting the black air, braver at night. Lonely thing, 12-fingered, out of my mind. A woman like that is not a woman, quite. I have been her kind. Historically, women with knowledge and power have been called witches and burned at the stake. However, in recent years, we've begun to reclaim the term, realizing that a witch is a powerful woman, made magical by her persecutors. In Chloe Maria Winstanley's book, Feminich, she explores the intersections between feminist and witch. In addition, Anne Sexton's poem, Her Kind, perfectly exemplifies my personal feminist struggle and the way it moves with cultural aspects of feminism. This program follows one feminich, who, after turning her ancient fire on herself, learns how to wield her power. The Modern Witch, a program. A warning before you walk into the woods. Those who would be threatened by a strong sense of self will always try to capture and stamp it out. I have ridden in your cart, driver, survivor. A woman like that is not ashamed to die. I have been her kind. Tell us who to marry, ban us from voting, tell us our skirts too short, and make sure we know how we have shamed you. We won't be owned. We will own. Call me a slut and I'll say, oh, thank you. For you must be so overwhelmed, insecure, inadequate in a presence like mine, threatened enough to use a retort that speaks more loudly of your failings and of my power than of my flaws. Listen, it has been said that goddesses do not speak in whispers. So why should you? Your body, your choice. Hex anyone who disagrees. Bleed onto paper. Cut out your heart and press it to the table. Bind feet, drag legs, get trafficked. Cry scream, get angry, set on fire. Repeat, 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 light me on fire and watch me explode into 1,000 pieces. Just like our ancestors. Only I did this to myself. Set myself on fire, and all that was left was me. Crouched and naked with a blackened heart in my hands. That girl you saw last night wasn't me. Most of the time, her fire was calculated. Sometimes she couldn't help but be consumed. A woman like that is misunderstood, and I have been her kind. You know, one of the problems with learning how to breathe fire is that it's usually the ones you love most who get burned. A body is beloved, but mine has been hurt, starved, and resented. As soon as I realized that beauty can come from its opposite, suddenly beauty was everywhere. Life is not perfect. But more than anything else, I love myself. Walked through deserts, slayed monsters, and kissed frogs to get here, but finally, here I am, training my brain to see the natural beauty in my reflection and not what a money-hungry industry wants me to think. Hey, beauty industry, you can't have my insecurities. Burn the patriarchy, she exclaims. Broomstick in one hand, triple goddess tattooed hand holding Starbucks coffee in the other. It is hard to know how the end will come. When the last remaining pillars of old systems finally come crumbling down. One thing that is known, our people will be there. They will be running companies, ruling nations, and drafting legislature and protesting in the streets. All will be witches. And they will be doing whatever they want because, haven't you heard? Women can do anything. Choice rests in our hands. We can cast off the chains that cannot hold us without our consent. A flame encapsulates for only moments, but your damnation will last an eternity, witches. Let us gather. History may be written by the victor, but karma, as they say, is a bitch.
In the fairy tale criminal justice system, fairy tales and nursery rhymes are represented by two separate yet equally ridiculous groups: the fairy tale police, who investigate fairy tale crime, and the fairy tale district attorneys, who prosecute the fairy tale offenders. These are their stories. Dung dung! Chestnut Hill, 7:26 a.m. Well. So, what are we looking at here, Cindy? Well, you'd be looking at 328 Chestnut, if it were here anymore. Accident? Not a chance. Perp check the property from the rear, letting loose some form of wind power. And I'm assuming there are no leads in our perp? No dice. But come take a look at this. See this yellow tinted fibrous material? We're stumped on what it might be. Let's have a look. Well, incredible. It's almost straw-like in appearance. You might be onto something. And I'm assuming there are no witnesses? Actually, Blue questioned a husband and wife who are about a block away. Well, where were they headed? For a circle. Why? I've got a few questions of my own to ask them. We've all heard the stories. We've all heard the tales. But what we haven't heard is when law and order is challenged. Who serves justice to those fairy tale characters, and what happens when our beloved childhood characters break the law? Law and Order Fairy Tale Unit by Jonathan Rand. Dung dung! For a circle, 7:30 a.m. FTPD. Finish line's right here, folks. What seems to be the problem? The problem is you can run, but you can't hide. Alrighty, let's hear your names. I'm Jack. Sprat, be nimble. The beanstalk. Just Jack. And this is my wife, Jillian. Word on the street you were walking pretty fast. Well, I was headed up Chestnut like usual when suddenly Jillian got dehydrated. So I went into the quick stop to buy her a bottle of Propel. Propel? It's a fitness water. Dad it! Well, then I heard a loud noise which caused me to trip and fall head first and crack the crown on my lateral incisor. Okay. Let me get this straight. You, Jack, and Jill went up a hill to buy a bottle of water. Propel. Whatever. Then Jack here fell down, broke his crown on his lateral incisor. Then let me guess. Jillian came tumbling after? Good one. No, why would she tumble? That doesn't make any sense. Did you see anything else out of the ordinary? Anything at all? Well, I did see something odd. What's that? Skittles. Skittles? There was a line of them trailing down the sidewalk. I'm thinking if you follow the rainbow trail of Skittles, then I bet we'll find our pot of gold. Bring, bring. Cindy here. No. Again? Strike two. Our furry fan man. Strike the building down in the boonies. We gotta run. Whoever our hairy perp is, got a sweet tooth for destruction. Dung dung. The Sticks. 7:50 a.m. Ha! Took you fellas long enough. Aw, Ugly D, you missed me? Aw. Dream on, Prince Charming. So, what do you got? Well, I heard about that pool over on Chestnut. Seems to me that this is the same perp. Identical wind velocity, identical approach from the backside. This time, though, different substance. What are these? They're almost stick-like in nature. Well, I've got a question. Why would anybody build a house out of sticks? Same reason why you'd build a house out of straw. And why is that? That's what they pay us to find out. Dung dung. Ferry District County Courthouse. 7:50 a.m. So, let me get this straight. Wolf approaches house, knocks it down. Yeah, kept saying he'd blow my house down, which, sounded a little bit weird, considering that I was, shaven, the really, really tough part, right here. And then, bam, he blows my house down. So, I curl it to my brows, in which then the perpetrator attempts identical fan power destruction. My only question is, why the disparity in your residences? Well, you see, a couple months back, Ma and Pa passed away. You know, luau. And they left behind a very sizable trust fund. Only problem is, well, this little piggy went to Vegas. Are you afraid of the big bad wolf? The big bad wolf? Are you afraid of Bernard Bartholomew Wolf? Well, I'm terrified. You see, I was just shaving like any other day when he blew my house down. Can any of y'all in the jury imagine looking out your front window and seeing that? Just right now, you just stated that you looked out your front window, which is, well, completely impossible because, well, according to my notes here, it happened from the backside. Therefore, I've come to the conclusion that you staged the destruction of your own home in order to collect on the windfall of insurance money you so desperately desire. How do you plead? I was broke. Vegas let me down. Take this little piggy away. Well, that was an ending I needed to see to believe. Well, I won't argue with that. So, what do you want? Dinner's on me. Well, you know what I always want. What's that? Justice. That, my friend, has already been served. Dun dun!